Alright, so next step in the process is I begin assembly, gluing things together. So I'm going to start with the back. I'm going to get the back ready to go before I start on working on the top and bending the sides. And I do that because I like to have my parts ready to go before I get to the point of gluing or any of that. So I'll show you where we are. Okay, now this is pretty close here. Sorry about that, but that's what I have. So I'm going to begin gluing this strip down. You can see it's not glued in yet. The first thing you should note is that you could do this with whatever glue you choose, probably. I'm going to be using Titebond, just a Titebond original. And the reason is I have not had a seam come apart on a guitar, so I don't foresee the need to be able to reverse this and take this part off. And that being the case, I'm going to be using a glue that's hard to reverse. And it'll tack just fine. This is where I'm going to place it. Now, before I've done this, before I get this down, there are two things that I did. I went ahead and marked up here at the top, which you can't see because it's off camera. Up here, I went ahead and marked roughly where my glue joint for the heel will be, so that I know not to go into that area. Also over here on the back, I marked roughly pencil outlines here where my end block will be. And that's important because I don't want to glue my strip down on those areas. I will have to cut in and remove some of this after I get it glued in, just for the lateral braces that go with the back. At this point the back is flat. Once we have this glued and we begin putting braces, the lateral braces, we will put a radius on it, but at this point is flat. So let me get the glue open here. I'm going to remove that. Now, if you are not using a decorative strip, you're just using a regular back strip, it works the same way. We're going to put it down, we're going to glue it on there, and put a weight on there to keep it down, to keep it from curling. Make sure it's pretty even. You don't want to have a whole lot of squeeze out because you don't want to have to clean it up if you can't help it. So there we go. I've got a nice even coat of glue. Make sure I make it center. Leave myself a couple of millimeters over there. Go ahead and kind of press down and move it back and forth just a little bit so that it tacks. Then I'm going to take some paper towels and I'm going to clean up the little bit of squeeze out that I have, that I can see. Okay, and now that I've got that, I'll put a weight on it and set it aside. Okay. Alright, so while the back's drying, let's take a moment and talk about back braces. So I've got 3 back braces right here. 2 of them, these 2, I have thicknessed for their width, because all of my back braces need to be about 7.5 millimeters wide. This one I have not, and you can see it has some rough edges on this side. Now that's important because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this plane right here to plane this down to that 7.5 millimeters. Now on the top I have marked how tall I want these braces to be. And that's important because I know which one goes where. Generally, once I've got my back braces together, either on the top or the bottom, I'm going to mark where that brace goes on the back, and I'll mark, usually on the side here, I'll mark a line that tells me how tall I want it in the center. Once I've got the braces width-wise, then I need to put a little radius in. So let's do the width of this brace first. I'm going to show you an easy method that I've come up with to make sure I get there. Okay. So I'm going to set my brace where I've got this I've got a smooth side over here and I've got a rough side over here. So I'm going to set the rough side away from me. You could do it out reverse. You could set the rough side close to you. It doesn't matter. But we're going to measure from that smooth side to the rough side, and I'm going to measure over and I'm going to mark how wide I want this brace. And so like I said, I want it 7.5. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to mark 3 places. On one end, in the center, and then the other end. Purpose of that. Now I can put my straight edge down on those lines and draw myself a line if I want to, so that I know exactly how wide to make this brace. You don't have to draw the line. You could do it with the dots. The dots work just fine. Okay, so I've got a line. Now I set my brace against a stop. So in this case, I've got a piece of material that's not as tall as the brace, but tall enough to stop the brace from moving anywhere. And I've got that clamped down to the bench with a hold fast. So now, all I need to do is I need to take my plane, and I'm going to remove all of this excess rough material. Try to keep your brace square. So it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top, so I'm taking a little bit more there than at the top. And if your plane is good and sharp, this should go rather quickly and take rather good shavings. You'll know when you're getting close, when you're down to your line on the side, because you can see your line, put the line towards you. I know I'm getting too close on this one end rather than this one, so I'm going to flip my brace around, take my shaving from the other side, so that I don't get a brace that has a weird shape. You don't want it to be wider than the middle unless your plan calls for that. So the idea here is that as I come close to my line on the brace, that it stays even, and so that all of my, I don't have to do this again, is the idea. Flip it back around again because now I'm even again. It's easier to see my line this way. There we go, all the way down to my line, all the way around. And I'm going to check it with these other braces and make sure that I've got it. And I do have it, so we're good there. Now Next objective is to turn them so the bottom is towards you. I want bottom up here. Take them and I'm going to check and see how long we are. 15 3/4, 400 millimeters. So if I mark at 200 millimeters, move it just slightly off camera here. So I've just measured them. We're right at 400 millimeters, more or less. So if I mark my center line on these, 200 millimeters, this should be good. Well, Jacob, what's the purpose of that? Back braces need to have a little bit of an arch to them. Now, there's two methods of doing this. You can leave them straight and then create a jig where when you put the back on it, the back is curved in the jig and it presses the brace into the back and presses it in such a manner that it curves the brace. That's one method. Okay. The method I like to use is to put a slight radius in the brace itself. And then when I clamp the back down to it, it is already radiused. And the reason I do that is because I know that once I shape the top of the braces, I'm going to take a little bit out of the end anyway. So it won't matter if I remove some on the ends at this point. Okay, so my method of doing this I clamp them all together, and I generally do this in a clamp all together, and I come with my plane and I work a small radius in. You don't have to have a whole lot. Back radius is 25 foot, 30 foot radius. So it's not extreme. I'll be back. Alright, so now I have these clamped up, ready to go. Like I said, I'm just going to put a little radius in, and the way that I do that is I clamp them all in together, start at the end. Doesn't help if I didn't get it tight enough. Reset. One side. Sorry, this doesn't show up well. My shoulder's probably in the camera. Now, it's just a slight radius. I don't even know if it's going to show on the camera that well. But it's just a little bit. You don't need a lot. Because I'm building a flamenco guitar, a flatter back will be okay. And actually it's probably preferable because I want it to be very resonant, lively, and move. And so I'm going to leave my radius like that, which is very slight, and work from there. So.